Hello students, today we will be studying rotational dynamics. Over here exercise has been written because we will be solving the exercise today, starting with the exercise. But previously there was some topic which was remaining, so I will try to explain that, then we will proceed with the exercise which is given at the back of your textbook. Let's start. See the translational kinetic energy, K means kinetic energy. Translational kinetic energy is to rotational kinetic energy is to total energy. There is a formula, okay, which we will be studying about this one. First of all, you have to understand this one, that is k square upon r square. K square upon r square is equals to n mr square, where n is called as a numerical value. What is the value of n? What is n called? Numerical value, where n is denoting k square upon r square's value. Take for example, okay, how from where we are getting this one? For that, try to understand. Moment of inertia is having two formulas, that is mr square. Moment of inertia is having two formula, that is mr square as well as mk square. If we compare these two equations, what will happen? M and m will get cancelled. Ultimately r square will come in the denominator. So k square upon r square. By just looking at this, for understanding, by just looking at this, you will be getting the value of k square upon r square. What is the moment of inertia of a uniform disk and a solid cylinder? That is half mr square. So this half is denoting what? The value of k square upon r square. Okay. Over here, n is what? K square upon r square. So n, numerical value of this moment of inertia of a uniform disk or a solid cylinder is half. Is what? Half. This formula will be useful. See over here, translational kinetic energy, rotational kinetic energy and total energy. This is the ratio, that is 1. Translational kinetic energy is 1. Rotational kinetic energy is k square upon r square. And total energy is 1 plus k square upon r square. You have to learn this formula as well as the previous one. What we have got over here previously is my moment of inertia, k square upon r square's value, what we have got? Half. What we have got the value, k square upon r square's value is half. So what we have to do? We have to just go on substituting. K square upon r square's value is what? Half. 1 will be as it is. K square upon r square's value will be half. And again is to 1 plus k square upon r square, means 1 plus half. So what will happen? This 2 will go over here. So we'll be getting 2 over here. 1 will be remaining as it is and 1 plus half. 1 plus half. What will happen? This 2 will go over here. So we'll be getting 2 plus 1 upon 2. So 2 plus 1 is what? 3 upon 2. So 2, all 2. Over here also we are getting 2 as the denominator. Over here also we are getting 2 as the denominator. So we can transfer this 2 directly over here. So we'll be getting the ratio as 2:1:3. So 2:1:3 is the ratio of uniform disk or a solid cylinder. Okay, next one we will be looking at uniform solid sphere. For a uniform solid sphere, moment of inertia is 2/5 mr square. 2/5 mr square. If we compare this equation by this one, what is the value, numerical value of n will be getting? That is 2/5. That is 2/5. If we substitute this values in this equation, what will be getting? 1 plus k square upon r square. K square upon r square's value is what? 2/5. So we are substituting 2/5 is to 1 plus k square upon r square. So we are again substituting 2/5. So 5 will come over here. 5 idhar aa jayega. So 5 plus 2 is what? 7. Again 5 is coming in the denominator in this 2. So we are transferring 5 over here. So we are getting 5:2:7. Next one, moment of inertia of a thin wall hollow cylinder or a thin ring. Moment of inertia is mr square. So k square upon r square, for numerical value we are getting as 1. So translational kinetic energy is 1 is to k square upon r square is to 1 plus k square upon r square. So ultimately what we are writing? 1 is to 1 because k square upon r square is only there and its value is 1 only. And over here is k square upon r square. So it is 1 plus 1, that is 2. So we are getting this value of as 1:2. This is in one of the MCQs as well. at the back of your textbook. Next one, moment of inertia of a thin walled hollow sphere, that is 2 upon 3 mr square, means k square upon r square's value is 2 upon 3. So translational kinetic energy is 1 is to k square upon r square is to 1 plus k square upon r square. So 1 is to 2 upon 3 is to 1 plus 2 upon 3. So we are getting 1 is to 2 upon 3 plus 1 plus 2 upon 3. This 3 will go upwards. 3 plus 2 is what? 7. So 3 will come over here. So it is 3 is to 2 is to 7. Now we will be starting with the exercise. First exercise, there is MCQs. So we will be solving. Choose the correct option. When seen from above, the blade of the ceiling fan are seen to be revolving in anti-clockwise. Blades of the ceiling fan are revolving in anti-clockwise direction. Anti-clockwise direction means what? It is revolving in this direction. Select the correct statement about the direction. Okay, over here what is happening? The speed is decreased. The speed is decreasing. So we have to find out the correct option related to the direction of angular velocity and angular acceleration. We have already studied this previously. See, whenever the speed is increasing, angular speed as well as angular acceleration both will be along same direction. Angular speed and angular acceleration both will be along same direction. But if the speed is decreasing, angular speed is in upward direction, whereas angular acceleration is in opposite direction. So both are opposite to each other. Okay. So let us read the option. Angular velocity upwards, angular acceleration downwards. Angular velocity downwards, angular acceleration upwards. Both angular velocity and angular acceleration upwards. Both angular velocity and angular acceleration downwards. So we will find that A option is right. Angular velocity upwards, angular acceleration downwards. Next one. A particle of mass 1 kg. A particle is there whose mass is 1 kg, which is tied to a 1.2 meter long string, is whirled to perform vertical circular motion under gravity. Minimum speed of the particle is 5 meters per second. We have to consider this following statement. What is the maximum speed? Okay. Over here they have given that maximum speed is 5√5 meter per second, and difference between maximum and minimum tension. Maximum and minimum tension means what? Tension at this point and tension at this point. If this is 0.1 and this is 0.2, so tension between these 2 points we have to find out, and we have to check whether it is 60 Newton or not. Okay. So first one, what has been given? Mass of the particle has been given, that is 1 kg. Velocity has been given, minimum speed is 5 meter per second. Radius has been given, it has been tied to a string. As it has been tied to a string, so its radius is 1.2 meter. Maximum speed at the height h. This is the height h, maximum speed. We have to find out maximum speed at the height h, that is root rg. R is what? Radius, that is 1.2 into 10. G we are taking as 10. So after multiplying, we will be getting the answer as root 12. Root 12, we can split it as 4 into 3. 4 is the square root of 2. So we can take 2 outside. So it will be 2√3 meter per second. So maximum speed is 2√3. But over here is what been given? 5√5. So this option is wrong. Next one. Difference between maximum and minimum tension. Difference between maximum and minimum tension, its formula is 6 mg. We will be deriving this as well. So don't worry. 6 mg, 6 into m, mass is what? 1, g is what? 10. After multiplying, we will be getting the 60 Newton. So over here you will see that difference between maximum and minimum tension along the string is 60 Newton. So Q is right. So B option is right. Next one, we have to select the option from the formula of the moment of inertia in terms of mass and the object, and some of the distance parameters such as radius, length etc. Different objects must have different expression for their moment of inertia. What they're telling, try to understand. Different objects are having different moment of inertia. Is that so? But there are many different objects having same moment of inertia. Try to understand. Moment of inertia of a disk is half mr square. Similarly, moment of inertia of a circular cone is half mr square. Okay, so this A option is wrong. Similarly, when rotating about its central axis, the hollow right circular cone and the disk have the same expression of moment of inertia. Over here, what has been given while rotating about its central axis? While rotating along its central axis, moment of inertia of a regular circular cone, moment of inertia of a hollow rectangular circular cone is half mr square, as well as moment of inertia of a disk is what? Half mr square only. So this option is right. This option is right. Okay. B option is right. Next one. Expression for moment of inertia of a parallelogram rotating about its transfer axis parallel to passing through its central includes depth. It is not including depth, so we will not be considering C1. Next one. Expression for moment of inertia of a rod and that of a parallel slit sheet is same about the transfer axis. Moment of inertia of the rod is different, that is ml square upon 12, whereas as well as moment of inertia of a plane sheet is also different. So this is also wrong. So correct option is B. Fourth MCQ. In a certain unit, the radius of dilation of a uniform disk about its center and transfer axis is root 2.5. Its radius of dilation about a tangent in its plane must be. Over here, what has been given? Radius of dilation has been given. Radius of dilation of a uniform disk has been given. That is k is equals to under root 2.5. Radius of dilation is about its center. As radius of dilation is about its center, means it is at the midpoint. So radius of dilation can be taken as r upon 2. We have to find out the value of r from this formula. So what we will be doing, we will be taking 2 in this side. So we will be getting r is equals to 2 into under root 2.5. What they have asked, its radius of dilation about its tangent to its plane we have to find out. Okay, and it is on the same unit. Radius of dilation about tangent of a disk lying in a plane is given by this formula, that is root phi 2r. Root phi upon 2r. Over here r's value we can substitute, that is 2 into root 2.5. So this 2 will get cancelled. Ultimately we will be left with root phi into root 2.5. If we substitute both of them, we will be getting the value as 12.5. Root 12.5. So D is the correct answer. Next one. Consider the following cases. The plane revolving in an elliptical orbit, a planet revolving in an elliptical orbit, a planet revolving in a circular orbit. Principle of conservation of angular momentum comes in force in which of this? Means we have to see whenever the planet is moving in a circular orbit as well as planet is moving in an elliptical orbit, in which case the conservation of angular momentum has been obeyed. Okay, so over here, first of all, we should know what is principle of conservation of angular momentum. Angular momentum tells us that external torque is 0. External torque is 0. Means what? dl by dt, or rate of change of angular momentum, is equals to constant. So L bar can be taken as what? L, as it is a vector quantity. This formula is r cross f. If we take out this cross product, means sine cross product, if we take out, we will be getting rf sine theta. But you will see that whenever the object is moving in a circular manner, the radius vector as well as force are in the same direction. The radius vector is directed towards the center as well as centripetal force is also directed towards the center. Whenever the planet is moving in a circular orbit. Similarly, when the planet is moving in an elliptical orbit, radius vector is directed towards the center, as well as centripetal force is also directed towards the center. So both are in the same direction. So what is the angle being created? They are parallel to each other first of all, and whenever they are parallel, the angle created is 0. So theta is equal to 0. If we substitute theta is equal to 0 in this formula, what sine 0 is what? 0. So anything into 0 is 0 only. So angular momentum is conserved in what? Elliptical orbit as well as circular orbit. Whenever the planet is moving in a circular orbit as well as whenever the planet is moving in a elliptical orbit. In both the cases, angular momentum is conserved. So the answer is C, both P and Q. Now this we have already studied today only. A thin walled hollow cylinder is rolling down an inclined plane. Means there is a hollow cylinder where it is rolling down the inclined plane. We have to find the ratio of rotational kinetic energy to translational kinetic energy to total kinetic energy. Okay, first of all we should know what is the formula for thin walled hollow cylinder. Thin walled moment of inertia of thin walled hollow cylinder or a thin ring is mr square. What is it? Mr square means nothing is over here, 1 is over here. So what does it denotes? Numerical value n, that is k square upon r square is equals to 1. So formula is what? Rotational kinetic energy. Rotational kinetic energy is to translational kinetic energy is equals to total kinetic energy. Over here rotational kinetic energy is denoted by what? K square upon r square. ठीक है, k square upon r square. सिर्फ ये पहले आएगा. This should only come before translational and this should go afterwards. So k square upon r square. Anyways, it is 1 only, so it will not be making any change. Translational kinetic energy will be coming afterwards. Translational kinetic energy का वैल्यू 1 है. इसका वैल्यू क्या है? 1 है. k square upon r square भी 1 है, इसका भी 1 है. 1 plus total kinetic energy और total energy is what? 1 प्लस के स्क्वायर अपॉन आर स्क्वायर. लेकिन के स्क्वायर अपॉन आर स्क्वायर का वैल्यू क्या है? 1 है. सो 1 प्लस 1 क्या मिलेगा? 2. सो द फाइनल रेशियो इज 1:1:2. सो द करेक्ट आंसर इज ए. Sorry, over here the answer is wrong. The correct answer is A. 1:1:2. Next one. We are starting with the exercise now, long answers. Why are curved road banked? Why is a curved road banked basically? Over here, see, there are many questions which I have already explained. So whichever is already been explained, I will not be going deep inside it. In order to understand it, you have to see my previous videos. Then your concept will be clear. But whichever questions I have not explained while doing the theory, I will be explaining that thing in details. Okay. Why is a curved road banked? I will read out. While taking a turn on a horizontal road, the force of static friction which has been created between the tires of the vehicle and the road provides a necessary centripetal force. It provides a necessary centripetal force. However, it provides a necessary centripetal force, or well, you can also tell it balances the centripetal force. However, the frictional force or the static friction which has been created over here, it is a limiting force. It is a limiting force means what? Its value cannot be up till maximum infinity. Up till certain value only it can provide frictional force. Okay. Also its value is usually not constant. Its value goes on changing. So its value is never constant. As a road surface is not uniform, which we have already seen during the rainy season or during snowfall or when the oil is split in the road, the frictional force or the static friction will be equal to 0. Thus in real life, we should not depend only on frictional force. We have to make the roads curved, slightly tilted. For this purpose, the surface of the curved road are tilted with its horizontals with some angle theta. This is a banked road. What is this called? Banked road. Thus for safety driving on the curved roads, banking of road is necessary to protect the vehicles from skidding. So banking of the road is very much necessary to avoid skidding. to avoid skidding or to protect the vehicle from skidding. Next one, do we need a banked road for two-wheelers? Explain. Yes, we need a banked road for two-wheelers as well, because when centripetal force is less, then the vehicle will skid. Means frictional force, whenever it is less, then centripetal force will be also less, then the vehicle will skid. To eliminate this difficulty, roads are banked. To eliminate this difficulty, roads are banked to certain angle. When the road is banked, the horizontal component of the normal reaction force provides the necessary centripetal force, which provides what? Necessary centripetal force required for circular motion. So the roads are banked to provide necessary force. So for two-wheelers also, roads should be banked. It is not that for four-wheelers only the road should be banked. Next question, on what factors does the frequency of conical pendulum depends? Is it independent of some factors? The frequency of conical pendulum, or frequency is formula is what? Or frequency is number of oscillations completed in 1 second. So n is equals to 1 upon t, and it can be represented as 1 upon 2 pi root g upon L cos theta. Over here, frequency depends upon what all factors has been asked. So frequency depends upon the length of the string of a conical pendulum. If this is a conical pendulum, then at what length of the string will be taken into consideration? Acceleration due to gravity g and angle theta, which is made vertically with the string. Angle theta will be also considered. Over here, is it independent of some factors? Yes, it is independent. But whenever theta is small. Whenever theta is very small, at that time, it will be independent of the factor theta. Why is it useful to define radius of gyration? This has been already been explained in briefly, but then also I will be reading this. For a given body, mass always remains constant. Okay. If we change the axis of rotation, the distance of the particles also changes. Axis of rotation, take for example, this is the axis of rotation. Okay. And afterwards we are changing the axis of rotation over here. Then the particle change. If the particle is over here, then from here to here it was previously nearer, now it is further. So distance is changing, so axis of rotation is also changing. Due to this, radius of gyration also changes. Radius of gyration basically depends upon shape and size of the body. It measures the distribution of the masses about the axis of rotation. What it measures? Distribution of the masses about the axis of rotation. Smaller the radius of gyration shows that the mass of the body is distributed closer to the axis of rotation. Smaller the axis of rotation, whenever the axis of rotation is very small, what does it state us? That moment of inertia is very small, as well as all the masses are equally distributed very nearer to the axis of rotation. But when radius of gyration is very large, what does it denote? The distribution of masses of the body is at a larger distance. Distribution of mass of the body is at a larger distance from the axis of rotation. So moment of inertia is large. Because of this, it is useful to define radius of gyration. Next one, a uniform disc and a hollow right circular cone has the same formula of moment of inertia. A uniform disc and a hollow right circular cone have the same formula for moment of inertia when rotating about its axis. Why it is so? Both of them are having same formula of moment of inertia. Why is it so? They are asking. We are knowing moment of inertia depends upon the factors, that is mass, shape and size of the body, distribution of the masses in the body about the axis of rotation. Where is the masses of the body distributed along the axis of rotation? Third one, position and orientation of the axis of rotation. Okay, where is the position of the axis of rotation and where is the orientation? We have seen the orientation with the help of the example of cylinder. Okay, Moment of inertia's formula is what? I is equals to integration r square dm. For a uniform disk and hollow right circular disk, since the distribution of the masses is same in both the cases, uniform disk as well as hollow right circular cone, distribution of masses is same. As distribution of masses is same, so the moment of inertia is also same. So the moment of inertia is also same. So I's formula is what? Half mr square. Next one. While driving along the unbanked circular road, a two-wheeler rider has to lean with a vertical. Why is it so? You might have experienced it whenever you are driving through a curved road. Whenever you are driving two-wheelers, your vehicle tends to bend. Your vehicle tends to bend at certain direction whenever you are bending, whenever you are turning. Okay, why is it so? The cyclist, we are assuming that the two-wheeler is a cyclist. Cyclist leans on one side while making a turn, because if he doesn't, he will be dragged away by the centrifugal force. If he doesn't leans, then what will happen? He will be dragged away. He will be pushed away. In simple words, the inertia of direction will force him. Inertia of direction will force him while driving along an unbanked circular road. A two-wheeler has to lean with a vertical. Why so? The cyclist has to lean on one side while making a turn. This he has to do because if he doesn't, then what will happen? He will be dragged away by centrifugal force. He will be dragged away by centrifugal force. You might have heard there is some sort of inertia of direction. Inertia of direction will force him to travel in same direction. Means he will not be able to take a turn, but he will be moved away in the straight direction. Okay. In order to resist this and to make a turn in the direction, he will have to produce a net force in that direction. Means take for example, this is a curved road. Whenever the vehicle has to move through this curved road, vehicle has to bend. If it is not bending, then he will be moved in a straight line. He will be moving in the straight direction, but he will not be able to take a turn. Okay. He can do so by bending his cycle in that direction. So therefore he bends in one direction. The moment he does so, the ground exerts an opposite frictional force. The ground exerts opposite frictional force, which is in the direction he wants to turn. Okay, so in whichever direction he wants to turn, whenever the cyclist bends, what will happen? Ground will provide some sort of force which will help him to move in that direction. The body weight is countered by the centrifugal force. Thus, the cyclist is able to make force, as well as he is able to turn in whichever direction he wants by just bending. Okay. If he will not bend, he will be moving in a straight line. So in order to bend, he has to bend. Next one. With what angle the rider has to lean? Derive the relation. There is some angle by which the rider has to lean. The angle by which the rider has to lean is given by this angle. That is theta is equals to tan inverse v square upon r. Expression is theta is equals to tan inverse of v square upon r. Over here from figure, we can see this curved road. Over here, you might be knowing that whenever the vehicle is over here, its downward force is down in a downward direction. In order to balance this downward force, n cos theta has been generated just opposite to it, and centripetal force is acting towards the center as this object or the vehicle is moving in a circular track, as the rider is moving in a circular track. So centripetal force will be in the same direction as that of n sin theta. So what we can write? N cos theta. N cos theta is a vertical component which balances the weight of this vehicle. It is n cos theta is equals to mg, as well as n sin theta is balancing the centripetal force. So what we can write? N sin theta is equals to mv square upon r. By dividing equation 2 by 1, by dividing this by this, what we get? N sin theta upon n cos theta is equals to mv square upon r upon mg is equals to mv square upon mgr. So over here tan theta is equal to this one. So therefore we get this relation. Why such a leaning is not necessary for a four-wheeler? You might have seen that two-wheelers leaning at certain direction, but four-wheeler never lean. Why is that so? We will see. A car also initiates a turn by the use of the front wheel. You might have seen that car is having front wheels which moves according to the which direction he has to move. But the difference is that while the tire aims in the direction of the turn, centrifugal forces causes the car's body. What is applicable over here? Centrifugal force causes the car's body, which is physically independent of the wheels, which is physically independent by the wheels, by the spring and shock absorber. You might have been knowing that car is having some sort of spring and shock absorber in front. So therefore the car doesn't need to lean at any direction. Without leaning also car can just turn, because car is having front wheelers which can rotate in whichever direction he wants. Hence such a leaning is not necessary in case of a four-wheeler. Using the energy conservation, derive the expression for minimum speed at different locations, vertical circular motion. See, this question is a big question, but I have splitted this question into three parts. And over here many things we have already discussed. Like for example, if we want to find maximum speed at this point, first of all, what we assume that tension at this point is equal to 0. Okay, tension cannot be negative over here, because if tension is negative, then the bob or the object will not be moving in a circular manner. So we assume that tension is equal to 0. So tension at the highest point is equals to mvh square upon r minus mg. In place of T tension, if we substitute 0 over here, what will happen? 0 is equals to mvh square upon r minus mg. So mg will be taking over here, we will be getting mg is equals to mv square h upon r. So what we will be getting? We will be taking r over here, so we will be getting gr is equals to vh square. So ultimately, highest velocity at this point, highest point, can be given by root gr. So equation 1 states us, for a complete vertical circular motion, the velocity at the highest point should be root gr. Should be what? Root gr. If it is less than root gr, then it will not be moving in a circular track. It will leave its circular track. Now we will be finding the velocity at the lowest point. We will be using work energy theorem. First of all, we will be assuming velocity at the lowest point minus velocity at the highest point. So work done by all the forces is equal to delta kinetic energy. Delta kinetic energy means what? Kinetic energy at final minus kinetic energy initial. Work done by all the forces is equal to work done tangentially plus work done mg. Work done tangentially is given by Fs cos theta. F into S. Force. What is force applied? Force is nothing but tension which has been given. Tension into S into cos 90. We are taking over here cos 90 because everything is perpendicular over here. As it is perpendicular, so we will be taking cos 90, that is 0. As cos 90 is 0, so work done due to tangential force will be 0. So work done due to tangential force will be 0. We will be not be considering this one. The thing which will be remaining, that is work done due to mg. Work done due to mg. See, Bob is over here. Bob is moving from here to here. So what is the angle created? Angle created is 180 degree. If from here to here the distance is r, then from here to here the distance will be another r, means total is 2r. So mg h, in place of h, you might be knowing work done due to potential energy is mgh. Mg we have written as it is. H means what? What is the height? That is 2r. Cos theta, in place of cos theta we will be taking 180, and cos 180 is minus 1. So we can write work done is equals to minus 2 mgr. Where explanation is there. Again we will be substituting minus 2 mgr, and this equation is equals to half mvh square. Kinetic energy final means what? Half mvh square, half mvh square. Kinetic energy initial means kinetic energy at this point, half mvl square. half m we can take common, as well as half we can cancel out, and 2 is in the denominator. It will go over here. We'll be getting minus 4 gr is equals to this one we'll be getting. So ultimately, after solving, we will be getting velocity at the lowest point, that is root 5 rg. So this is the minimum velocity which should be applied at the point L. Next, one more part is there. Is zero speed possible at the highest point? Zero speed is possible at the highest point. You might be knowing. At this point, kinetic energy is zero and potential energy is maximum. So that's what has been written. As in the upper point, kinetic energy is zero. As an object, full energy is converted into potential energy and kinetic energy is zero. Okay. Next one, we have to find total energy at this extreme points. Prove that difference between the extreme tensions depends only upon the weight. This is the tension at this two points. We have to show that it only depends upon the weight. So force due to okay. Over here, what we have to prove, the difference between the extreme tension. Difference between the extreme tensions depends only upon the weight. For this, what we'll be assuming, you can see this whenever the bob is at point C, tension is in this direction towards the center, and the bob's weight is felt in the downward direction. So both are perpendicular to each other. So force due to tension is the only force depends on the center, as its weight Fg is perpendicular to the tension. So over here we will be assuming 2 points, and we will be proving with the help of law of conservation of energy. We will be assuming total energy at this point B is equals to total energy at this point C. Okay. So total energy can be divided into kinetic energy plus potential energy. Kinetic energy at point B plus potential energy at point B is equals to kinetic energy at point C plus potential energy at point C. Kinetic energy at point B is given by this formula, that is half mvb square, and potential energy at this point is equals to 0 because it is at a 0 distance from the surface of the earth. So half mvb square plus 0 is equal to half mc square plus mgr, because from here to here the distance is r, radius. It has covered a distance of r times, so it is mgr. We can take common, m we can take common from here as well. So m and m will get cancelled. This half half will be remaining as it is. We can substitute the values of vb square. Velocity at this point we have already found it out. Velocity at this point is given by under root 5 rg, but this whole square is there. So what will happen? This square root and this square sign will go away. Okay. We want to find out the value of vc square. So ultimately this will become half phi rg minus rg. Over here, if we take 2 as a denominator, 2 will be also multiplied by 2rg. So it will be phi rg or gr minus 2gr. That will be giving you 3gr. Over here 2 is there in the denominator, over here also 2 is there. So 2 and 2 will get cancelled. So ultimately vc square is equals to 5gr. So vc is equals to under root 5gr. Velocity at this point and this point will be same, as both are midpoints. So velocity at this point is given by under root 3gr. This equation gives the speed of the particle at point C and D both. Okay. Now if we want to find out the difference between the tension at this point C and point H, highest point, what we'll be doing? We'll be subtracting B and A. We are knowing whenever the bob is at the highest point, the tension in the string is given by this formula, that is mg plus th is equals to mvh square upon r, as well as tension at this point C is only due to centripetal force, that is mv square upon r. If we subtract b by a, then this by this, what will be getting? tc minus mg plus th is equals to, this full will be writing mvc square upon r minus mvh square upon r. We can take m upon r common, into brackets vc square minus vh square. Over here mg plus, this is already there, So what we'll be doing after removing this bracket, this will become minus. After removing this bracket, this mg will be minus only and this will be minus. So what we are doing, we are taking this on this side. So it is becoming plus over here, and it is Tc minus Th, tension at the this point, midpoint, minus tension at this highest point that we wanted to find out. This m upon r, we can substitute the values of Vc, what we have got, root 3rg, but this is Vc square, so we will be only writing 3rg, and velocity at this highest point is root gr. Again root sign will go away, square root and square sign, so we will be getting 3gr minus gr plus mg. 3 minus 1 is what, 2gr plus mg. Again this r will get cancelled, ये r cancel हो जाएंगे, so what we'll be getting, 2mg plus mg. So final answer is 3mg. So what we have got, tension at this midpoint minus tension at the highest point is given by this formula, that is 3mg. This equation gives the difference in the tension at this point C and point A. And point A, it is not point A, it is point H. Okay. Now we will be finding the tension at these 2 points. Tension difference between the highest and the lowest. Again, what we will be doing, tension at the lowest point is given by this formula, mvl square upon r plus mg. mvl square at this point is given by plus, and at the highest point it is given by minus. Okay. So again what we will be getting, TL is equals to mvl square plus mg upon r, th is equals to mv square h square upon r minus mg. If we substitute lowest minus highest, what we'll be getting, this full we'll be getting, ये पूरा मिलेगा. If we take m upon r common, what we'll be getting, vl square minus m minus vh square plus 2mg. By conservation of law of energy, what we can write, potential energy at the lowest point plus kinetic energy at the lowest point is equal to potential energy at the highest point plus kinetic energy at the highest point. But potential energy at the lowest point is equal to 0, so therefore we have taken over here. Kinetic energy at the lowest point is given by this formula, half mvl square. Again potential energy means from here to here, what is the distance travelled by the bob? It is r and r, so it is 2r. So mg2r plus half mvh square. We have to take this whole term. What we are doing, we are taking this term over here. So this is becoming minus after going over here. And we can take half m common because half m is there in this one as well as this one as well. So half m vl square minus vh square is equals to mg2r. So what will happen, m and m will get cancelled. Ultimately we will be left with vl square minus vh square is equals to 4gr. So from equation 1 and 2, from equation this and this, what we have got, vl square minus vh square, what we have got the value, that is 4gr. We can substitute 4gr over here. यहाँ पे substitute कर सकते हैं 4gr. So m upon r 4gr plus 2mg. So r and r will get cancelled. Ultimately 4mg plus 2mg. What will be getting? 6mg. Based on this formula, there was one numerical as well, MCQs, which we have solved today. Discuss the necessity for radius of dilation, define it, which we have already defined, as well as explanation also we have done. So we will not be looking over here. On what factors does it depends upon, we will be just going through it. Can you locate some similarities between center of mass and radius of dilation? What can you infer in a uniform ring and a uniform disk having the same radius of dilation? Radius of dilation's definition: the moment of inertia of the body about the axis of rotation. I is equals to summation I is equals to 1 to n mi/ri square. Now if the whole mass of the body is at the radial distance k from the axis of rotation, then its moment of inertia remains the same. What is this telling? That whole mass of the body is at a radial distance, means whole mass of the body is at radius of dilation only, radial distance k. Then axis of rotation is called as a radius of dilation. Then what we can write, moment of inertia according to radius of dilation formula is what? I is equals to mk square, where k is equals to root under root I upon m. K is what? Radius of dilation. It is what? Distance actually. It is what? It is a distance. So it's measured in meters, and SI CGS unit is centimeter. Its dimension is only L1, rest all is 0. What are the factors affecting the radius of dilation? The factors are moment of inertia of the body, shape and size of the body, distribution of the masses of the body, position of the body. Okay, this all are the factors on which radius of dilation depends upon. Radius of dilation doesn't depend upon the mass of the body. Radius of dilation does not depend upon the mass of the body. Okay. Similarly, between the center of what is the similarity between center of mass and radius of dilation? Center of the mass means value of an average over all little bits of masses. If many bits of masses have been given 1, 2, 3, 4, then center of mass will be the addition of all of them. Okay, average summation of all of them. And radius of dilation is a root mean square of again. And what is radius of dilation? It is root mean square of all of these masses. Radius of dilation is root mean square of all of these masses, and center of mass is addition of all of these masses. Okay, this is a similarity. What is infer? What can we infer? That in a uniform disk and uniform ring of a moment of inertia, I is equals to half mk square. Radius of dilation is given by this formula, that is k is equals to under root I upon m is equals to root mr square upon 2m. This m and m will get cancelled. Ultimately, what we'll be getting? R is equals to r under root 2. Okay. The radius of dilation of a given distribution of mass of the body about the axis of rotation. What does radius of dilation gives? It gives you a distribution of the masses about the axis of rotation for a uniform disk, and uniform ring. Since distribution of masses is same, distribution of masses, if it is same in case of a uniform disk and uniform ring, then naturally radius of dilation will be also same. Radius of dilation will be also same. State the conditions under which the theorem of parallel axis and perpendicular axis are applicable. Conditions under which these theorems are applicable. Parallel axis, this theorem is applicable to determine the moment of inertia of a rigid body about any axis. It is applicable about any axis, gives that moment of inertia if the inertia about the parallel axis through the center of object of the body. If this is a body, if this is a axis through which moment of inertia is to be founded, and if it is a center of mass, if just we are drawing a parallel axis to this, then we can find out moment of inertia across this axis. If moment of inertia across this axis is I0, if moment of inertia across this axis is IC, then it is denoted by this formula, that is IZ they are telling. I0 we can write I0 is equal to IC plus mh square. What is m? This whole mass of this body. H means what distance between these two axes. Okay. Perpendicular. This is applicable only to a plane lamina. Like I have already said, it should be very thin, of very negligible thickness. The moment of inertia of the plane lamina about the axis perpendicular to this plane is equal to the sum of the moment of inertia about any two mutually perpendicular axes passing through the plane intersecting each other at a point at which they are perpendicular to each other. This theorem is very useful when considering the body of a regular form about 2 out of the 3 axes. One of the moment of inertia. Okay, you should be knowing the statement as well as this one. This one is not required. Statement is what? Iz is equal to Ix plus Iy. This is a mathematical expression where Iz is a moment of inertia about z axis, Ix is a moment of inertia across x axis, and Iy is a moment of inertia across y axis. Over here expression is there. Derive an expression for an angular momentum with its angular velocity of a rigid body. We are considering a rigid body which is spinning with an angular speed omega. Let n be the number of particles. m1, m2, mn are the masses of particles situated at a distance rn, r1, r2n from the axis of rotation and moving with speed of v1 to vn. Linear momentum, we are knowing that it is a vector quantity So L bar is equal to bar cross P bar. If we remove this cross product, we'll be getting sine theta. But you will see that this R and P are, this V and P are in same direction. P is what denoting linear momentum and V is denoting linear velocity. You will see that R and P are perpendicular to each other. As they are perpendicular to each other, so theta is 90 and sine 90 is 1. Over here, we'll be first of all finding the mass or angular momentum of each and every masses. Then we'll be adding all of them in order for finding the angular momentum of all this body which is rotating. So LR angular momentum is equal to L1, L2, Ln. L1 is R1 P1 plus R2 P2 plus R3 Pn plus Rn Pn. Over here, momentum we are already knowing that momentum is mass into velocity. So what we can write, LR is equal to R1 M1 V1 plus Rn Mn Vn. Again, velocity can be written as what? R omega. V is equal to R omega. But you will see that omega is constant in each and every term because this object is moving with constant angular velocity. As they are moving with constant angular velocity, so omega will not be changing. So R1, M1, R1, omega, everything will be written in this manner. But you will see that R omega is common, so we can take it out. Inside bracket, we will be getting R1, M1, R1 plus R2, M2, R2 plus R3, M3, R3 plus Rn, Mn, Rn. Bracket के बाहर omega. This whole term is denoting what? Moment of inertia. So L is equal to I omega. This is what we wanted to prove. Obtain the expression related to the torque with angular acceleration of a rigid body. This also we have already discussed. We will be finding the torque acting on individual particle and then adding in order to find the torque acting on a rotating body. We'll be first of all considering mass of individual particles, torque of individual particles, then we'll be adding all of them for finding the total torque acting on this body. So for that reason, we are supposing a rigid body which is consisting of n particles of mass m1 up till mn, which are situated at a distance, mass m1 is situated at a distance r1, mass m2 is situated r2, r3, rn, and are moving with force F1, F2, F3, Fn respectively. So over here, M1, you will see that F1, F2, F3, F4, Fn all are tangential force acting on the mass M1, M2, Mn respectively. So linear acceleration A1 can be written as R1 alpha, A2 can be written as R2 alpha, A3, R3 alpha, An, Rn alpha. You will see that alpha is not changing, alpha is constant, because angular acceleration is constant in this case. Okay, so magnitude of this force of the particles, we can write F1 is equal to M1 A1 is equal to M1 R1 alpha. In place of A, what is angular acceleration? We can write R1 alpha. This is what has been written over here, R1 alpha. But torque, we have to find out torque. So we have to take this relation in order to find the torque. Previously we have got the relation of F का मिल गया है लेकिन torque का नहीं मिला है. So for converting F to torque, we have to multiply by radius vector. But torque is a vector quantity. Vector quantity, if we remove the vector quantity, then we get sine theta. So torque tau 1 is equal to F1 R1 sine theta. Again theta is 90 and sine 90 is what? 1. So tau 1 is equal to F1 R1. Tau 1 is equal to F1 R1. But F1 can be written as M1 A1 R1. Again A1 can be written as R1 alpha. So what we'll be getting ultimately? M1 R1 square alpha. Over here also for tau 2, M2 R2 square alpha, tau 3 M3 R3 square alpha, tau and Mn Rn square alpha. If we write all the things and by adding all of them, what we'll be getting inside the bracket? See over here we have added total torque is equal to tau 1 plus tau 2 plus tau 3 plus tau n. So ultimately we have substituted the values. Over here you will see that alpha is common in all. So what we can do, we can take outside alpha M1 R1 square plus M2 R2 square plus Mn Rn square. This whole can be written as moment of inertia. So summation I is equal to 1 to n mi ri square alpha. So this whole can be written as I. So ultimately what we'll be getting? tau is equals to I alpha. Tau is equals to I into alpha. Over here, principle of conservation of angular momentum, which we have studied, but let us discuss one more time. What does angular momentum states us that? A principle of angular momentum. The angular momentum of the body remains constant. Angular momentum of the body remains constant. And when does it remains constant? Whenever the resultant external force acting on the body is zero. So if external force acting on the body is zero, means angular momentum is equal to zero, means it is conserved. You can take daily life example. Earth is rotating around itself and no body is exerting any force on it. So we'll be starting with the derivation. We are assuming that particle is there of mass m, which is rotating with a torque tau. P is a linear momentum of the particle and r is the radius vector. By definition of angular momentum, L cap is equal to r cap cross p cap. Over here, order shouldn't be changed. In my previous teaching, I have changed the sequence by mistake. Now I will not be changing. But you should also not just change the sequence r cross p. R should always be in the first and p should always be at the second. So we have to differentiate dl by dt is equal to d by dt r cross p. So dl by dt, we are using UV rule. So we will be first of all differentiating p. So we are differentiating dp by dt. In the second one, we will be keeping second term as it is and we will be differentiating the first term. But dp by dt, rate of change of linear momentum with respect to time is equal to f. So over here we can substitute f, r cross f we will be getting, and dr by dt means what? Rate of change of displacement with respect to time is called velocity. So in place of a here, what we can write v. So, but momentum is what? M into v. If we substitute all these values over here, what we will be getting? R cross f plus v into m cross v. Over here you will be looking or watching that v and v are the same terms. So cross product over the same quantity, this is v vector, and cross product over the same quantity is 0. Why it is 0? Because if it is the same quantity, then what is the angle created? Theta is equal to 0, and in a vector product the angle created is sine, and sine 0 is 0. So this whole term will vanish. So ultimately dr by dt is equal to r cross f, and r cross f is what? Tau. What is r cross f? Tau. So dl by dt is equal to tau. So if the resultant external force, external torque acting on a particle is 0, then dl by dt is equal to 0. Means angular momentum is equal to constant. Therefore, I omega is also equal to constant. So angular momentum remains constant, but there is a change in I and omega. There are some daily life examples. You might have seen divers in a swimming pool. While on diving board, the diver stretches their body so as to increase the moment of inertia. Before diving, they stretch their body. Immediately after leaving the board, they fold their body. By folding their body, what does they do? They reduce the moment of inertia. They reduce the moment of inertia, due to which frequency increases. Frequency increases, so they can complete more rounds in air to make the show more attractive. Again, while entering into the water, they stretch their body into the streamlined shape. This allows them smooth entry into the water. This more nicely I have explained in the previous slide. So those who have not seen that, kindly see that video. One more example, riding a bicycle or motorcycle. Once you are going, this is a daily life example. Once you are going fast enough, your wheel spins so that tipping over causes a change of angular momentum with corresponding torque. You might have experienced while driving or bicycling very faster. At certain point, your pedaling stops pedaling. Okay, your foot doesn't respond to the pedal. The fan takes longer time to slow down if one turns off the power. The torque due to power supply balances the opposite torque. The torque due to power supply balances the opposite torque due to friction and the air. Then the fan blows once the fan is filled up. Thank you.